The storm screamed across the frozen moon, throwing knives of ice through the air. Evan Cross held his arm across his face as he stumbled through the blinding snow. His ship had gone down an hour ago. The engines dead, the heat systems gone, and his radio silent. He was the only human for hundreds of miles on this strange alien world. The planet's name was Rin 4, but among explorers it was known by another name, the Death Moon. His breath came out in quick white clouds. Each step felt heavier, his boots sinking deep into the snow. The cold bit through his gloves. Through his jacket, through his bones, he tried shouting for help. But only the wind answered, somewhere behind him. The wreck of his ship burned weakly, fading into the storm, then through the thick snow. A shape moved, tall, armored, and fast. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light, but then he saw it clearly. A figure in black combat armor carrying a long energy spear. Its eyes glowed faintly blue behind a cracked helmet visor, and it was not human. Evan froze. He had read reports about alien mercenaries in this sector, ruthless hunters who took contracts to kill or capture humans. He tried to raise his blaster, but his hands shook too much. The alien lifted a hand. A deep voice came from behind the helmet, rough but oddly calm. "Lower your weapon, human. You'll die faster from the cold than from me." Evan's arm dropped. He wanted to speak, but his throat felt like ice. The alien stepped closer, towering over him. Now he could see blood dripping from a crack in her armor. Her movements were steady but strained. "You're hurt," Evan said quietly. The alien tilted her head. "And you're freezing," she replied. "Follow me if you want to live." He didn't argue. He followed her through the storm, stumbling behind as she moved with surprising grace. After a few minutes, they reached a narrow cave hidden between two cliffs. Inside, faint blue light shimmered from crystal-like stones on the walls. It wasn't warm, but at least the wind couldn't reach them. The alien took off her helmet. Evan's breath caught. Her skin was pale silver, her eyes sharp and golden, her hair dark blue and cut short. A scar ran across her cheek. Despite her warrior look, she was young, maybe close to his age. She sat against the wall, breathing heavily. Her voice came softer now. "Don't look while I fix this," she said firmly. Evan blinked, confused. "Fix what?" "My armor," she said, turning away. "It's damaged." "No peeking, human." Evan turned around quickly, feeling awkward but curious. He could hear the sound of metal pieces falling, the soft hiss of steam, the faint groan of pain. He wanted to help but didn't dare. Outside, the storm howled like a beast. Inside, only the sound of her movements filled the silence. When she spoke again, her voice was weaker. "You're lucky I found you, human. Most mercenaries would have left you to die." "Then why didn't you?" he asked, a pause. "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe I'm tired of letting people die." Evan turned slightly, careful not to look directly at her. He saw her reflection in the glowing crystal. Her shoulder was bleeding badly. He tore off a strip of his jacket and crawled closer. "Here, let me help," he said. She gave him a sharp look. "I said no." He pressed the cloth against the wound anyway. She winced but didn't stop him. Her golden eyes met his for the first time, fierce yet strangely thankful. Minutes passed. Evan finished wrapping the wound and leaned back. She sighed deeply. "My name is Zara. I was a soldier once now." "Just a mercenary." "Evan Cross," he replied. "Engineer, cargo pilot. Or I was before I crashed." Zara looked at him for a long moment. "Humans," she murmured, "always ending up where they shouldn't be." He smiled faintly. "And aliens always showing up when we least expect them." Outside, a low growl echoed through the storm. Zara's eyes narrowed. "They followed your crash. Hunters. They can smell blood." Evan's hand went to his blaster. Zara stood up, energy spear in hand. She glanced back at him. "If you want to live till morning." "Stay behind me," she said. Evan nodded, heart pounding. As the storm roared and shadows moved outside the cave, Evan realized something strange. This alien who had saved his life was bleeding because of him, and yet she stood ready to fight for him again. He didn't know why, but one thing was clear. This night would decide both their fates. The growl came again, louder, closer. Zara gripped her spear and whispered without looking back, "Don't peek, human." Then she stepped toward the cave mouth, her silhouette framed by lightning and snow. The battle for survival had begun. The cave shook as the wind screamed outside. Evan pressed his back against the wall, gripping his small blaster tightly. He could hear growls circling the entrance, deep, wet, and hungry. Zara stood near the opening, her plasma sphere glowing faint blue in the dark. Her silver skin caught the flicker of light as she whispered something in her alien tongue. Then silence. A second later, something lunged in. Evan only saw a blur of claws and teeth before Zara moved. Swift and precise, her spear cut through the air. Leaving a trail of sparks, the creature fell in 2 pieces. Its blood steaming on the cold stone, Evan's heart pounded. He had seen soldiers fight before, but never like this. Zara fought like someone who had nothing left to lose. When the noise faded, Zara dropped to one knee. Evan rushed forward. Her side was bleeding again. The cloth he tied earlier soaked red. She tried to stand, but her body trembled. "Sit down before you fall," he said firmly. Zara frowned but obeyed, sitting against the wall. Her breath shaky. "You humans give too many orders," she muttered. "And you aliens never listen," Evan said. Trying to smile, he tore another strip from his jacket. "This is not going to hold long," he said. She looked away, embarrassed. Her armor was open now, showing her skin around the wound, faintly glowing silver blue under the cave light. Evan noticed her muscles tense as if she hated being seen. "Don't look," she murmured. "You humans stare too much." He quickly turned his eyes. "Sorry. Just trying to keep you alive." As he worked, Zara studied him quietly. He wasn't a soldier. No scars, no armor, no training. Yet he didn't hesitate to help her in her life as a mercenary. Trust was a thing that got you killed, but this human, he didn't act like prey or enemy. He acted like someone who believed everyone could still be saved. Outside, the wind eased. Inside, the silence between them grew heavier. Evan finally spoke. "So who were they? Those monsters?" Zara leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "Snow raptors. They feed on heat, metal, and fear. They follow ships that crash, always looking for warm bodies." She looked at him again. "You're lucky I came first," Evan chuckled weakly. "Yeah, you could say that." He looked at her armor, scarred, dented, pieces missing. "You were hit before you found me," he said softly. She didn't answer right away. "Then my squad attacked a convoy near this moon. I didn't like the target, unarmed colonists, so I turned on my commander. Now they hunt me instead." Her golden eyes darkened. "Mercenaries don't forgive traitors." Evan didn't know what to say. He just nodded slowly. "So, both of us are stuck here," he said. Zara smiled faintly. Seemed so human. Hours passed. The two shared dry rations from Evan's pack, barely edible but warm. Evan tried fixing his emergency beacon. Zara watched, curious. "You really think anyone will come for you?" she asked. "I have to believe they will," he said simply. "Humans are stubborn that way." Zara tilted her head. "Stubborn or foolish?" "Maybe both," he replied, grinning. For the first time, she gave a small laugh. A strange, beautiful sound in the cold cave. It startled even her. She quickly turned away. "Don't get used to it." "Human," she said, hiding a smile. "Too late," he teased. "It's already my favorite sound on this planet." The moment didn't last long. Zara's wrist device beeped faintly, an old signal repeating. Her expression changed instantly. "That's not good," she said. Standing fast, Evan looked confused. "What is it?" "A beacon. My old squad. They're tracking me. They'll follow the crash site here." Evan frowned. "Can we hide?" "No," she said quietly. "They'll burn the whole valley to find me." She turned off the beacon and slammed her fist against the cave wall. "They never stop." Evan stood beside her. "Then we don't run," he said. "We prepare." She stared at him, surprised. "You would fight mercenaries for me?" He shrugged. "You fought monsters for me first." For a long moment, she said nothing, then slowly she nodded. "You're either the bravest or the dumbest human I've met." "Probably both," he said, smiling. Zara sighed. "Fine engineer. If we're fighting, we need weapons, traps, and luck." "I can handle the first two," Evan said. "You handle the third." Her lips curved slightly. "Deal." As night fell again, Evan worked on wiring small explosives from his ship's wreck. Zara cleaned and sharpened her plasma blade. The cave glowed softly in the blue light. Neither spoke much, but something unspoken passed between them. A strange partnership built not from duty but survival. Before lying down to rest, Evan glanced at her. "Zara," he said. "What?" "Thanks for saving me." She didn't look at him. Just don't make me regret it, she said, turning away. But after a moment she whispered softly, almost too low for him to hear. Sleep, human. I'll keep watch. Evan closed his eyes. Outside, the storm returned. Inside, a mercenary with golden eyes guarded him, a wounded warrior who once hunted humans, now protecting one without knowing why. The night fell again, darker than before. Evan sat beside the dying blue fire, his hands shaking as he checked the last wire connection. Zara stood near the cave entrance, her eyes glowing faint gold in the dim light. Scanning the white world beyond, snow drifted quietly. But every gust of wind carried a low growl they both knew. Something was coming. Evan looked up. You think they found us? He whispered. Zara didn't answer, her grip tightening on her plasma spear. After a long moment, she said softly, They never give up. Once a mercenary marks a target, they finish the job. Evan's heart thumped fast. He looked at her damaged armor. Patched with metal scraps and wire, she looked tired, her breath misting in the cold air. You could have left me, he said. Zara glanced at him. Maybe I should have. But you didn't, he said quietly. Her golden eyes softened. Humans talk too much, she muttered, turning away. But he caught the faintest smile on her lips. Suddenly the ground vibrated. Snow fell from the cave roof as a roar shook the valley. Evan grabbed his blaster. Zara's eyes narrowed. They're here. Through the snow, red lights flickered, drones scanning the terrain. Behind them marched armored figures. Weapons glowing blue, Zara's old squad. The same insignia still shone on her shoulder armor. Scratched but visible, Evan saw her jaw tighten. They came for you, he said. No, she replied grimly. They came for both of us. She stepped forward, motioning him back. When they enter, wait for my signal. Then hit the detonator. Evan nodded, clutching the small remote he'd built from his ship's scraps. His stomach twisted with fear. He was no soldier, he was just an engineer with frozen fingers and a dying hope. But he'd already decided he wasn't leaving her. The first drone zipped into the cave, its light sweeping across the walls. Zara threw a metal shard, one clean throw. The drone exploded in sparks a second later. 3 mercenaries stormed in, shouting in an alien tongue. Evan ducked behind a rock as plasma bolts scorched the cave walls. Zara moved like lightning, her spear cutting arcs of blue light. She blocked one shot, spun, and struck. 2 attackers fell, but one bolt hit her shoulder, sending her stumbling back. Evan's thumb pressed the remote. The ground erupted, his improvised mines bursting with fire and light. The explosion shook the mountain outside. Screams echoed through the snowstorm. Zara fell to one knee. Gasping, Evan rushed to her. Her armor smoked, blood seeping through the cracks. Zara, he shouted. She pushed him away. Stay back. They're not done yet. More shadows appeared in the blizzard. 5, maybe 6 figures advancing. Evan reloaded his blaster. Hands trembling, he fired wildly. Missing half his shots, Zara forced herself up. You shoot like a child, she muttered, taking his blaster and firing 3 perfect shots. Each hit a target. Then she grinned weakly. But at least you try. One last mercenary charged, a massive alien with twin energy axes. Zara met him head-on, their weapons clashed. Lighting up the cave in flashes of blue, the force knocked them both back. The mercenary raised his axe again, but Evan tackled him from behind. The alien roared, throwing him aside. Zara used the moment to strike, her spear piercing through the enemy's chest. The giant fell, Zara collapsed beside him. Breathing heavily, Evan crawled to her side, coughing through the smoke. You okay? She gave a weak chuckle. You humans, you never run, do you? Not when someone I care about is in danger, he said. She blinked, surprised. No one had ever said that to her before. Outside, silence returned. Only the whisper of falling snow remained. Zara leaned against the wall, staring at the flickering fire. Her armor was almost gone now. Only a few plates clung to her body. She reached up, unfastening her damaged chest plate. Evan turned his head quickly. She laughed softly despite the pain. Still shy, human? Still trying to be polite, he replied, eyes averted. Strange, she murmured. You're not like the others. You fight, but you care. He looked at her, silver skin glowing faintly under the crystals, golden eyes tired but fierce. You saved my life twice tonight, he said. Zara shook her head. No, human. You saved mine too. A faint beep came from his wrist device. His distress beacon had finally reactivated. Evan's eyes widened. Someone might pick up the signal. Zara didn't smile. Or they might trace it. Either way, we'll have company soon. Evan moved closer. Then we'll face it together, he said. She met his gaze for a long time before nodding slowly. Together, she repeated quietly. The fire burned low. Outside, the snow glowed faintly under the alien sky. Two survivors sat side by side, one human, one mercenary, both broken but alive. And as the wind carried the smell of smoke into the night, Zara whispered with a faint blush, her voice teasing but soft, "Don't peek, human. Not yet." He smiled in the dim light. And for the first time since the crash, the cold didn't feel so deadly anymore. Morning came slowly to the frozen valley. The storm had passed, but the silence felt heavy. The ground outside the cave was littered with burned metal and frozen bodies. Smoke drifted from the wreckage of the night's battle. Curling into the pale sky, Evan stepped out carefully, his boots crunching on the snow. The air was so cold it stung his lungs. He looked around, checking for movement. Only the wind answered, whispering across the ice. Behind him, inside the cave, Zara sat against the wall. Her armor stripped away to the waist, wrapping a cloth around her wounded shoulder. Her skin shimmered faintly silver in the dim light. She looked exhausted but alert, her golden eyes following his every move. "You shouldn't be outside alone," she said sharply. Evan turned back, half smiling. "I was making sure we're not surrounded again," Zara snorted softly. "You're not a soldier, human." "No," he said, "but I'm learning from the best." She raised a brow but said nothing. Instead, she checked her wrist device. Its cracked screen flickered faintly. Her expression darkened. The device was still blinking red, sending out a weak signal. "Your beacon again?" Evan asked, walking closer. Zara's jaw tightened. "It's not mine," she said quietly. "It's theirs." Evan frowned. "You mean?" "They planted a tracker on me when I deserted, even when I shut down my comms. It reactivates once they get close." Her hand trembled slightly. Then she slammed her fist against the wall in anger. Evan flinched. Hey, stop," he said gently. She looked at him, eyes fierce. "You don't understand, human. They don't just want to capture me. They want to make an example. They'll torture me. Broadcast it live to warn every deserter." Evan stayed quiet for a moment. Then he crouched down in front of her. "Then we remove the tracker," he said simply. Zara blinked, surprised by his calm tone. "You can do that?" "I can try," he said. "Show me where it might be." After a long pause, she nodded. Her fingers brushed the side of her neck, where a faint scar glowed under the skin. "There," she whispered. Evan pulled out his small repair kit, the last thing left from his ship. "All right, no promises," he said. "But let's see if human hands can fix alien mistakes." Zara sat still, biting her lip as he worked. The device hummed faintly, sending tiny sparks as he tried to reroute the power. She didn't make a sound, though the pain was clear in her eyes. When it finally clicked off, a small red chip fell into his palm. He smiled. "Got it," he said. Zara touched her neck, disbelief in her voice. You actually did it." He grinned. "You're welcome." She stared at him for a long moment, then looked away quickly. "Don't smile like that," she muttered. "It's distracting," Evan chuckled softly. "You're welcome anyway." For a while, they both rested, but peace never lasted long on this moon. Zara's communicator buzzed again, but this time it wasn't a beacon, it was a voice. "Zara of Clan Varys," the voice said, deep and mechanical. "This is Captain Drek. We know you're alive. Surrender before sunset or we'll level the entire ridge." Evan froze. Zara's face went pale. "Drek," she whispered. "My old commander." Evan clenched his fists. "They'll kill you if you go out there." Zara shook her head. "They'll kill you if I don't. They don't take prisoners, human." He took a step closer, his voice steady. "Then we don't surrender. We fight." Her golden eyes met his. "You'd die for someone you just met?" He smiled faintly. "You saved my life twice. I owe you at least one bad decision." She stared at him for a long time before sighing. "You really are insane," she said softly. "Maybe," he said. "But you like that." That made her laugh. Short, quiet but real. "Fine, human," she said, standing slowly. "Then we fight together." They spent the next hour preparing. Evan reinforced the cave entrance with broken armor plates. Zara charged her plasma blade using the last power cell from his ship. They built traps from fuel canisters and shards of alien tech. Outside, the sky began to darken again. Snow glowed red under the fading sun. When everything was ready, they sat near the fire, silent. Evan watched her polish her blade. She looked calm, almost peaceful. "Zara," he said quietly, "what? If we make it through this, what will you do?" She thought for a moment, then said, "Maybe stop running. Maybe start living." She looked at him, her golden eyes softer now. "What about you, human?" He shrugged, smiling. "I'll probably crash another ship." Zara chuckled and shook her head. "Hopeless," she said. "Maybe," he replied. "But at least not alone." A distant explosion echoed through the valley. Zara stood, her armor glowing faint blue again. "They've started moving," she said. Her voice firm now. Evan rose beside her, blaster ready. He looked at her and said quietly, "No matter what happens, I'm with you." Zara hesitated, then nodded. "Then stay behind me," she whispered. Her cheeks faintly flushed and no peeking. Human. The snow outside burst into fire as enemy ships descended. The cave filled with light, and together a human and an alien mercenary stepped forward into the storm, ready to face the entire galaxy if they had to, side by side. The sky burned red as enemy dropships descended through the snowstorm. The frozen valley trembled under the engine's roar. Zara's golden eyes reflected the light, steady, sharp, ready for war. Beside her, Evan tightened the straps on his jacket, his small blaster shaking in his hands. He looked terrified, but he didn't back away. Zara glanced at him, her voice calm but firm. "When I say run, you run." "Understood." Evan shook his head. "No running," he said. "Humans don't run from friends." She stared at him for a second, then sighed. "You're either very brave or very stupid." "Probably both," he said. Grinning above them, explosions echoed as drop pods hit the snow one by one. Black-armored mercenaries poured out, spreading in a wide circle around the cave. Evan watched from the narrow gap in the rocks. "There are too many," he whispered. Zara smirked faintly. "Then we give them something to remember." She stepped forward into the snow, cloak whipping in the icy wind. The mercenaries stopped when they saw her. Their leader, Captain Drek, walked out from the smoke, massive and scarred. His armor bore the same crest as hers, but his was polished, cruel. "So it's true," he said through his helmet speaker. "The traitor still breathes." Zara held her spear ready. "I stopped being one of you when you started killing civilians," she said coldly. Drek laughed. "And now you protect humans? Pathetic." Evan stepped out behind her. "Careful," he said. "She's not the one who's going to lose today." Drek's visor turned toward him. "A human," he said with disgust. He raised his plasma rifle. "Then you'll die first." Zara moved before he could fire. Her spear flashed through the air, slicing his weapon in half. The mercenaries opened fire. Blue plasma bolts filled the sky. Evan dived behind a snowbank. Pressing the detonator on his wrist, the valley erupted, explosions tearing through the mercenaries' line. The traps they built the night before worked perfectly. Half the enemy fell in seconds, the rest scattered in panic. Zara charged into them like a storm. Her movements were fast, graceful, deadly. Each strike of her spear left trails of light. Evan provided cover fire, blasting drones from the air. One of the mercenaries threw a grenade. Zara caught it mid-air and hurled it back. The explosion lit up the night. Snow raining down in waves, then silence. Evan looked up, breathing hard. "Did we win?" Zara didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on Drek, still standing. Smoke rose from his armor, but he was alive. He lifted a heavy plasma cannon, aiming it straight at Evan. Zara ran. Faster than he'd ever seen her move. She slammed into him, knocking him aside. The blast hit her instead. The light threw her body back against the rocks. She fell to her knees, smoke rising from her armor. Evan crawled to her side, shouting her name, "Zara! Zara, stay with me!" Her breathing was ragged, her armor cracked and glowing. She tried to speak but coughed. "Don't let him win," she whispered. Evan's eyes burned. He looked at the cannon charging again. Without thinking, he ran toward Drek. The captain laughed. "A human charging me?" Evan dodged plasma bolts, sliding behind debris. He yanked a power cell from his pack and jammed it into the snow, connecting wires from his wrist beacon. It began to whine, a rising sound like a scream. "Hey, ugly!" Evan shouted. Drek turned. "What?" The explosion was deafening. A wave of white fire swallowed the ridge. When the smoke cleared, Drek was gone. and the snow was blackened. Evan lay motionless near the crater. Zara crawled toward him, pain in every movement. Her hand shook as she touched his shoulder. His face was pale, blood trickling from a cut above his brow. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you do that?" His eyes fluttered open, weak but alive. "Because you saved me first," he said softly. "And I wasn't going to let you fight alone." Zara bit her lip, her golden eyes wet. "You stupid, stubborn human." He smiled faintly. "You say that like it's a bad thing." She helped him sit up, wrapping her arm around him for support. Smoke drifted over the frozen valley, and faint orange light glowed on the horizon. The wreckage of the battle looked almost peaceful. Zara leaned her head against his shoulder. For the first time since he met her, she looked unsure, almost shy. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "No one's ever fought for me before." Evan smiled. "Then maybe it's time someone did." For a moment, neither spoke. Only the sound of the wind filled the silence. Zara closed her eyes, whispering softly, "Don't peek, human." "I'm crying," Evan laughed quietly. And for the first time since the crash, she laughed too. Together they sat in the snow, two survivors in a war-torn world, their story far from over. But for now, the battlefield was theirs. The night was quiet again. Only the low hum of burning metal echoed through the valley. The battle was over, but the silence felt heavier than the gunfire. Zara and Evan sat together beside a small fire inside the cave. Its faint blue glow touched their tired faces. Snowflakes drifted through the entrance, melting before they reached the ground. Evan's left arm was wrapped in bandages, his face pale but alive. Zara's armor lay in a broken heap beside her. She wore only the dark undersuit beneath, torn and burnt in places. Her silver-blue skin shimmered softly under the light. She stared at the flames without speaking, her golden eyes distant, unreadable. Evan finally broke the silence. "So, now what?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer. He smiled faintly. "Usually when people survive a battle, they celebrate. You know, laugh, shout, maybe rest." Zara's voice came soft but sharp. "Mercenaries don't celebrate. We just survive." He leaned back, watching her. "You're not a mercenary anymore," he said. Her eyes flicked toward him. "Then what am I, human?" He thought for a moment. "Someone who saved a fool's life more than once." That made her lips twitch slightly. "Maybe I regret it," she murmured. He grinned. "No, you don't." For a long time, there was only the crackle of fire. Then Zara spoke again, her tone quieter. "Back there, when you ran toward Drek's cannon, I thought you were insane." Evan chuckled weakly. "I was. Still am." "But you did it anyway," she said. "For me." He shrugged. "Seems fair. You've been saving me since the crash." Zara looked down at her hands. There were scars along her palms, marks of battle and survival. She flexed her fingers slowly. "No one's ever done that before," she said, almost to herself. "No one's ever cared if I lived or died. To them, I was just another weapon." Evan moved a little closer. "Well, maybe you were using the wrong people." She gave a small, bitter laugh. "Maybe," she said, "but weapons don't get to choose." He shook his head. "Then stop being one. You don't need to fight anymore." She looked up, her golden eyes glimmering in the dim light. "You think it's that simple?" He met her gaze. "Nothing's simple. But maybe it can start with one choice." Zara stared at him for a long moment. Then she smiled faintly, a real smile this time, soft and human in its own way. "You talk too much," she whispered. He smirked. "Yeah, that's what everyone says." She leaned back, resting against the rock wall, her energy fading, her expression softer. Outside, the snow had stopped. The moonlight slipped through the cave opening, bathing them in silver light. Zara took off the last piece of her chest armor. It fell with a metallic clink. Evan turned his head quickly. Flushing, Zara laughed quietly. "Still shy, human?" He cleared his throat. "Just trying to be respectful," she smirked. "Respect doesn't exist between warriors." "Good thing I'm not one," he replied, smiling. Her laughter faded, replaced by a softer tone. "You know," she said, "when I said no peeking back then, I wasn't just talking about my armor." Evan blinked. "What do you mean?" She looked at him, her eyes glowing faint gold. "I meant, don't look too close at me. Don't look at what I've done or what I was." Evan's voice softened. "Zara, I already did." Her breath caught. "And?" He smiled gently. "I saw someone worth saving." Zara froze for a second, then she laughed softly. but this time her voice trembled. "You really are a fool," she whispered. "Maybe," he said, "but I'm your fool." For the first time, Zara didn't hide her emotions. Her eyes shimmered like melted gold. She looked away quickly, wiping her face. "Don't peek, human," she said again, her voice shaking slightly. "I told you not to." Evan leaned closer, his voice low and warm. "Too late. I already did." Silence fell again, gentle this time, not heavy. Outside, the wind had stopped completely. Only the faint hum of the fire filled the space. Zara exhaled slowly, then looked at him again. "You know, human," she said softly. "I don't understand your kind. You fight, you break, you bleed, and still, you smile." Evan looked at her and replied, "That's how we win." She studied his face for a long moment, then nodded, almost to herself. "Then maybe, I want to learn that too." Evan smiled. "Good. Lesson 1, never give up." "Lesson 2?" she asked quietly. He looked into her golden eyes. "Never hide who you are." For a moment, time seemed to stop. The cold no longer mattered. The galaxy outside the cave felt far away. Two broken souls, one human, one alien, sat close under the same light. Zara finally leaned her head on his shoulder, her voice barely above a whisper. "If anyone told me a human could make me feel this way, I'd have called them insane." Evan chuckled softly. "Guess we're both insane then." She closed her eyes, her hand brushing against his, and with a faint blush on her cheeks, she whispered one last time, "No peeking, human. Not tonight." The fire crackled quietly, and for the first time since the crash, Zara slept without fear. Morning broke over the frozen valley like the calm after a storm. Soft light touched the snow, turning it into fields of silver glass. The smoke from last night's battle had faded, leaving behind silence and scars. Zara sat by the dying fire, her golden eyes half closed. She looked peaceful for the first time since Evan met her. Evan stirred beside her, slowly waking. He groaned, holding his injured arm. "Still alive," he whispered, half smiling. Zara glanced at him. "Barely," she said, but there was warmth in her voice. "Your species doesn't know when to die," he chuckled. "We try our best not to." Outside, the wind had stopped completely. Only the distant hum of a ship engine echoed in the sky. Zara's eyes snapped upward. "That sound," she said quietly. Evan stood, squinting through the bright morning. A dot appeared on the horizon, growing, larger every second. "It's a ship," he said, excitement in his voice. His distress beacon had worked, finally. Zara didn't smile. She stood slowly, shoulders tense. "If that's a human rescue team, they won't like what they find." Evan turned toward her, confused. "What do you mean?" "They still think my people are enemies," she said. "If they see me, they'll shoot first and ask questions later." Evan frowned. "No, I'll explain. You saved me. You fought. For me." She shook her head. "Humans don't care about alien stories told by mercenaries." "Then I'll make them care," he said firmly. Zara's eyes widened a little. "You would risk your rescue, for me?" He stepped closer. "I already did." The sound of the ship grew louder. Snow whirled around as the shuttle descended. Engines kicking up a storm. Two armed soldiers stepped out first, scanning the area with rifles ready. Behind them, a commander shouted through a loudspeaker, "Human survivor identified. Step forward with your hands visible." Evan raised his arm slowly and called out, "I'm Evan Cross, cargo engineer. I'm not alone. There's someone else here with me." The soldiers stiffened. Zara stayed hidden behind the rocks, silent. The commander's voice came again. "Another human?" "No," Evan said, his voice steady. "She's not human, but she saved my life." Instantly, rifles were raised. "Alien contact confirmed." "Stay back, sir," one of them shouted. Zara stepped out then, calm, proud, her eyes glowing faintly under the rising sun. Her spear was gone, her armor broken, but she held her head. "Hi." The soldiers froze, whispering among themselves. The commander aimed his weapon. "Identify yourself." Zara said nothing. Evan moved between them, standing right in front of her. "She's not your enemy," he shouted. "She fought off a squad of mercenaries to protect me." The commander's tone hardened. "Step aside, engineer. That species is classified as hostile." Evan shook his head. "Then your classification is wrong." The tension was thick. No one moved. The soldiers' fingers hovered over their triggers. Evan's heart pounded. He raised his voice again. "Everything you know about her kind, it's not the full truth. You want proof? Look at me. I'm alive because of her." Zara stood behind him, silent. The wind tugged at her dark hair. She looked at the human commander. The same coldness she once saw in her own leaders. Slowly, she stepped forward. "If you must arrest someone, arrest me," she said softly. "But spare him. He's done nothing wrong." The soldiers hesitated. Evan turned toward her, shocked. "No, you're not doing this," he said. Zara's golden eyes softened. "I told you, human. I don't run anymore." For a moment, the world seemed frozen. In place, then the commander lowered his rifle slightly. "Stand down," he ordered his men. The soldiers exchanged uneasy looks but obeyed. He stepped closer, studying her face. "You saved one of ours?" Zara nodded once. The commander looked at Evan. "Is that true?" "Yes, sir," Evan said quickly. "She's the reason I'm standing here." The commander was silent for a long time, then he exhaled slowly. "Then she comes with us, but under observation." Evan grinned. "That's fine. She hates being bored anyway." Zara blinked, surprised. "You mean they're letting me go?" Evan smiled. "No. They're letting us go." The two boarded the shuttle together. As it lifted from the icy valley, Zara looked out the window. Below, the battlefield was already fading under the new snow. Everything she had been, mercenary, deserter, fugitive, was buried beneath it. Evan sat beside her, his voice gentle. "New start," he said. Zara turned her head toward him, her lips curving slightly. "Humans always talk about new starts," she said. "It's how we survive," he replied. She looked down, her hand brushing against his. "Then maybe I'll learn that too," she whispered. The shuttle pierced through the clouds. Sunlight spilled through the cabin, painting her silver skin in gold. Evan smiled at her. Zara noticed and looked away. Quickly, her cheeks faintly glowing. "Don't peek, human," she murmured. Evan laughed softly. Too late again. And as the stars filled the sky outside their window, two strangers, once enemies, left behind a death world, not as soldier and survivor, but as something far rarer in the galaxy, a human and an alien, learning how to trust, how to heal, and maybe how to love.